Lee, can you share some stories of writers that were unrepped that went to then become repped and worked in television?
Of course. There's too many good stories there is the problem. But one of my favorite stories, that is a story, something that happened to a client of mine this past year. This is a client, a writer whom I met through UCLA. We started working together. He then started taking classes at a program called Script Anatomy that I'm a big fan of. Really perfected his work, wrote a fantastic pilot that ended up actually coming in second place in the prestigious UCLA contest. Using this pilot, he found a manager who decided to shop the pilot, which is highly unlikely today to shop a pilot from a brand new writer. But he found a manager, a very well-known and well-respected manager, who took out the script. They went on a bunch of meetings and a bunch of networks. Ultimately, at that point, nothing had come of it, but he continued to network pretty aggressively and in a pretty focused fashion. He is Latino, and he went to a panel of Latino writers and had prepped for the panel before it had happened. And so he walked in knowing a little bit about each one of the panelists. He tried to communicate with 3 of the 4. Those 3 he couldn't really make any sort of connection with, but the 4th writer he really hit it off with. Ultimately, he felt like he didn't want to stalk the writer. He didn't want to be the guy going, "Can you read my script?" So he befriended him on Facebook and Twitter, and that was the end of it. A few months passed, and he realized that this writer was teaching a class at Writing Pad, which is a writing program, and said, "You know, it's a prep class for the television fellowships. I want to go sign up for the class because as part of this class, this writer is going to have to read my work." The writer read his work, called him up, and said, "Hey, I think I know of an opportunity for you." It turned out the opportunity was staffing on American Crime Season 3, the most prestigious show on network television. Based on the writer's personal story, the writer went on to meet with the executive producer of the show and then went on to have a call with John Ridley. He had no in-the-room experience. He was then called in to meet with ABC, Disney's inclusion department, which subsidizes the fellowship. They all signed off on him, and 3 days before the room opened, he got the call that he is staffing on this show. I really love this story because I feel like it takes the onus of getting that first job out of the agent or manager's hand. The writer is now signed with CAA, writing feverishly, seeing him tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, hard at work. He just finished his season of American Crime where he had a co-write, so he had a co-written by credit on his own episode. You know, just as euphoric as can be, love the experience. But it's a writer who really made it happen for himself rather than saying, okay, I have an agent, I have a manager, I'm going to sit on my hands and wait for something like that to happen. So I particularly love that story because it just shows you what a writer who is smart about networking can do for himself. And, you know, he went from a complete unknown taking classes in UCLA to a repped and working writer.